Hey, this is John Odermatt, the host of Finding Freedom, and today I'm going to be sharing a story about my experience with a water company that now I've joined a class action lawsuit against. I'm going to be updating you guys on my entrepreneurial journey, some things that have changed since my last update several months ago, and we're going to be talking about a 16-year-old in New York who has won a federal court case against her school for getting a medical vaccine exemption. And of course, we'll be digging into the biggest news of the day. Donald Trump, is he flipping on his support for his Operation Warp Speed? That and more coming right up.
We are born free, and we will die free. The time in between, though, that's complicated. In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Odermatt.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom. Today is a solo episode, and it's Labor Day. It's a holiday weekend. Been a crazy few days. Been super busy, packed full with, different family events, and went up to the Penn State game on Saturday, drove up in the morning, back after the game. So it's been a crazy couple days. I did not have an interview this past week. So I wanted to bring you a solo episode, and I think it comes at a pretty good time. Of course, there's the news of the day, I think, which is people are talking about it everywhere, which is Donald Trump sending out a post on Truth Social, maybe, questioning his wisdom on Operation Warp Speed. And we'll get into that. We're going to talk about that in the second half of the show. But in the top half of the show, a couple personal things that I want to talk about going on in my life, which I think are kind of interesting. And before we do that, I do want to remind you about Fox and Sons coffee, guys. Fox and Sons coffee, I've been drinking it for months now. Owner, friend of the show, Stephen Fox, of course, was on a few weeks ago talking about a recent attempt at a recent cancellation attempt that he had to withstand, and some life advice that he gained along the way that really when people on the left try to throw stones at you and take you down, really the best way to respond is not to throw stones back. So if you missed that episode with Stephen Fox, go back and check it out. It was awesome. I loved our conversation, and you can get 15% off your order at Fox and Sons Coffee. That's Fox N, just letter N, sons.com. Use promo code John at checkout for 15% off an order of $40 or more. So go check that out. And I said that I want to share a couple personal items that I think are kind of interesting and maybe a little bit funny for you to hear. First, if you followed me on social media, on Facebook especially, then you're familiar with my ongoing dispute with Primo Water Company, Primo Brands to be specific. And I will, in the event that, or I should say, preemptively trying to prevent them from suing me, I will be careful in how I phrase things, and I will just give you a high-level overview of the situation with this water delivery company. So Primo Brands formerly was made up of several different companies, one of them being Crystal Springs. And my family, we started ordering Crystal Springs 5 gallons of spring water, that comes in the big jug, and you put it in the machine to get your spring water. We started doing that a few years ago when there was that train derailment in Ohio, just east of us. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to drink the water for a little while. I'll just get it delivered. And we liked it. And so we just kept doing it. And it was awesome. I mean, Crystal Springs was fantastic. Their customer service was great. If you had a problem, you could call them. You could talk to someone who spoke English. It was great. It was fantastic. I loved dealing with them. I had to change orders at the last minute. One time I forgot to switch my order and we were going out of town on vacation. I called them. They were like, no big deal. We're not going to charge you for this. And the delivery driver was about to drop off and they had him, turn away and didn't drop the stuff off and all was good. And I pushed it back a week. Anyway, the long story short, there is Crystal Springs as a company was fantastic. Now they were acquired by Primo Brands, which is now a group of a bunch of these different water companies. And as soon as that switch was announced, the service went totally down the tubes, and to the point where over a, I think, 2 month span, maybe longer, but just I'll be very conservative. 2 month span, they only delivered. It's probably more like 10 or 2 month, 10 week span. They only delivered water one time, and every time I would call and say like, "Hey, you guys missed another delivery," they would be like, first of all, I was speaking with someone who barely spoke English, obviously a call center in India, and they would apologize and be nice about it and everything, but they never ever ever delivered. They would miss a delivery. You would call them. They'll set it up again. Oh, we're so sorry, so sorry. Not deliver. Eventually, at the end of it, they were like, "We will give you we'll pay for your next water order, and you don't have to pay anything for it." They were going to cover the cost of 8 or 6 5-gallon jugs of water. I was like, "That's awesome. I don't believe you're going to deliver it." I would tell them that on the phone. No, I don't believe it's coming. You're not going to deliver the water. And they didn't. They never did. So finally, I canceled. And they'd been charging me for months for a water dispenser that I was renting from them. So I was like, take these charges off. They took some of them off, but not all of them. Anyway, long story short is I canceled. I'm with a different water company now, Tyler Mountain. Fantastic. If you're in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, I think they service that whole area, maybe Kentucky as well. Check them out. Tyler Mountain Spring Water. Fantastic. Awesome company. Small company, family owned, not owned by hedge funds, which I assume that's what happened with Primo Brands, because private equity hedge funds, they come in and they pretty much destroy almost everything. Anyway, so Primo Brands, what ended up happening was when I canceled, they were like, all right, we're going to come pick up your stuff on this day. And I was like, can't do it then. I'll be on vacation. So rather than actually changing the date, they just left it where it was. And I sent the messages saying, I'm on vacation. I can't put the stuff out. So anyway, they pushed the date back a week and never came. So I called them. They said, okay, we'll be there in 2 days. Never came to pick up, the water dispenser and the other empty jugs that I have. So push it back. So I called them again. They pushed it back another couple of days. Never come. It gets to the point where last time I called them, I was like, I know you guys aren't gonna, come on the date that you say. So I'm just gonna leave this out in front of my house until it disappears, and it's still there. There's a water dispenser and 3 empty jugs of Crystal Springs water that have been sitting there for weeks now. And it will sit there until you come pick it up. And no one's going to steal it, unfortunately, because why would anybody steal that? And I live in a very nice neighborhood. So around that same time, I was targeted by a Facebook ad. One of those, from one of the those legal firms is like, have you been a water customer of this company, this company, this company? And of course, Crystal Springs, Primo, blah, blah, blah. They were on there, all the companies associated with Primo Brands. So, of course, I replied to it, said, yes, I have been. This has been my experience, filled out a quick survey. Well, long story short, I've now joined a class action lawsuit against Primo Brands. And, I'm probably not going to get any money out of this. All I really want to happen is I want this company to go out of business. They are an awful, awful company that does not fulfill their promises, and they should be out of business. They're a terrible company. And by them going out of business, that would clear space for other companies to come in and provide a service. So that's the reason why I'm participating in the class action lawsuit. I should also add Primo, Crystal Springs, etc. They service all the Home Depots around me, and all of the Home Depots have also had no water for the past like 3 or 4 months. So I don't know, like when this merger happened, like whoever the CEO and the supply chain director are, if they came to a strategic decision that they were just going to stop delivering water, yet still call themselves a water company. I don't know what their like end game is here, what they're trying to do. If they're just funneling all the money out of the company and then they're just going to go bankrupt. I don't know what the plan is. I don't understand. If anyone understands how things like this work, when private equity comes in and they strip something down and kill it, how do you make money on that? I really don't get it. Anyway, that's Primo Brands. Stay away from them. That took up 11 minutes. That's ridiculous. Next, I did want to give a quick update on, you know, about a year ago, I was talking to you guys about how I had left corporate America. I was laid off from my job. And I was kind of, at the time thinking, I don't want to go work for another corporation. And I'm still in that boat. I don't want to work for another corporation. And the past year, I have been focusing on growing my different entrepreneurial ventures. And if you followed the other podcast I had for a short time on my Finding Freedom solo feed, Pursuit of Freedom, you can still go back and listen to those episodes. If you just, I'm sure if you search Pursuit of Freedom, they'll come up. I have considered bringing that back, Pursuit of Freedom. I love the intro music, and honestly, I might take the intro music from Pursuit of Freedom and make that the new Finding Freedom music, because it's really good. I just need to shorten it some and clip it. I've been meaning to change out my Finding Freedom music for a while. So I probably will do that within the next couple episodes here. And that was, I think at the beginning of this year, that was one of the things I said that I wanted to do. It was a part of one of my goals of branding the podcast, I think, which I do need to review those goals with y'all as well, because I'm not doing that well. And I need to be honest. I think that's important. And by reviewing them with you all, maybe I can close out the year and accomplish the goals I set for this podcast. Anyway, to talk about, what's going on with me from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I talked a lot about ice machines and starting an ice machine business. Learned a ton, talked to a bunch of different companies, got involved, no contract signed or anything, pretty, pretty far along the process, with Ice House America, which is a great company, and a representative there. We were looking at several different areas in southwestern Pennsylvania, and made a ton of phone calls, got some leads, um, and had I didn't have exact location picked out, but if I would have continued, I definitely was going. No, it was going to get locked up probably. In a relatively short time frame. The thing was, though, from a funding standpoint, not having a W-2, not having an employee job, getting financing is not as easy. Of course, you can help. People are almost always willing to give you money, a hard money loan at a much higher interest rate, which was not something I wanted to do. Something you can do if you have a plan on how to refinance quickly, which I could put that together and could definitely get that figured out. But it's really not a path I wanted to. I didn't want to take on that risk, I guess, to put it directly. And the other way I could have funded it, which I still may do, is by utilizing my IRA as a as a ROBS, which ROBS stands for what I totally blanking on what ROBS stands for, but essentially what you're doing is you're using your IRA to fund your business. So it's not a self-directed IRA. It's essentially your IRA becomes the IRA for your business, and then you have a investment fund, your IRA in your business, but also you can use that money to directly fund your venture. There's rules around it. You have to work in that business, so it doesn't work like if you're just like passively investing in real estate or something like that, like you would typically do with a self-directed IRA. With the Robs, you have to actively work in the business, and you have to take a paycheck. And there's a certain amount of like time that you have to work in the business to that you have to report to the IRS and things like that. And when I talked with you know a Rob's, there's companies that specialize in this. I think it's Guidant Financial was the one that I talked to. When I talked with the guy over there, um, he had helped people do this exact same thing with ice machines, and he was familiar with it. And he's like, "You're going to have to ramp up. It can't just be. It can start with one ice machine, but it's going to have to go into two, into three." And I was like, "Okay, I mean, that's what I was planning on doing anyway at the time, but I really wasn't planning on focusing 100% like that much time on growing an ice machine business." So for that reason, I took my foot off the pedal, and also I just didn't feel comfortable taking all that money, sort of like my safety net, um, my IRA, and basically making it totally illiquid um, for a period of time. So I mean, in hindsight, I don't know. Maybe if I pulled the trigger then last fall and started, I'm sure it would be great right now. It'd just be very different. Um, but at the same time, rather than investing that money in an ice machine, I've really focused on growing that IRA, and I've done incredibly well growing what I have in that IRA by investing in a lot of companies that are either directly or on the peripheral of this small modular reactor, um, just the industry that is totally blowing up due to the data center boom, and of course being driven by AI and cloud computing. So really, I'm kind of happy that I didn't do something because I've been able to grow that amount of money significantly. Um, I'm not going to throw out numbers, but it's been eye opening. So which is open up more. It's kind of like, okay, now if I want to do the Robs, now I got a bigger nest egg to deal with, and maybe I don't have to use all of it. So anyway, that's where the ice machine is right now. It's still there. Every time I drive somewhere, I'm always still looking around like, oh, that'd be a good spot. That'd be a good spot. Taking notes, I still have different locations. I still, I'm always looking for new locations and gathering, location data and demographic data, things like that for different areas. So it's something I will do. This market here, really, in the Northeast, ice machines they're coming. I mean, they if I don't do it, someone else will. Just because from a cost standpoint, it just makes so much sense. I mean, of course, when you're in the South, you have a much longer season. When it's warmer, people are boating more, outdoor activities more. You have a longer season, so you can make more money having them in the South. Of course, just naturally, it's the weather, it's temperature. But in the North, still, people do use ice, and what makes it such a great economic model is you're making the ice on site. You have no transportation cost. You're making the ice to order. As soon as someone buys ice, more ice is made right there. There's no delivery. You don't have to pay the people in the factory to bag it up, to load it in the truck. You're not paying the fuel to get it there. All you're paying for is the utilities right there on the site, and you're paying, you know, rent to lease out the size of like, you know, a couple parking spots, depending on what size ice machine you get. So it's definitely the market is there, and someone's going to take advantage of it. Hopefully, I do at some point. Anyway, okay. So what I've been focusing on is my Plexus business, my wife and I, health supplements, gut health, and that's been our rock, man. We've been doing this for years. I think 6, 7 years, something like that. And man, I mean, I am just so thankful for Plexus as a company, what they provide, the platform they provide to be able to build a business. And the owners, uh, the co-founders, the two guys who founded this company, Tarl Robinson and Alec Clark, these are guys who have made a commitment. Number one, they've always been debt free. They are not going to go public. They are not going to bring in private equity to finance anything, because as soon as you do either of those two things, you lose control of the company, and it just becomes, quarter to quarter, how can we maximize profits, which is the exact problem with corporate America. So it's a model that, instead of being focused just 100% on maximizing profits quarter to quarter, it's focused on what is best for the brand ambassadors, the ones who are actually out there on the interwebs, talking to people, talking to their networks, and moving products that way. So I've just been reflecting lately on just how thankful I am for what my wife and I have built with Plexus, the people we've met, the people that we've helped along the way, um, to meet the health goals and really have a serious impact on their lives. And I mean, for us too. I mean, it's been great for our health, and also we've helped other people grow businesses to create income, which is fantastic now when you look at what's happening with the economy. So it's something we're definitely going to continue to grow in, and you know, always looking happy to talk to anybody about Plexus and explain what it is, how it works, and answer any questions at all. The other thing I've been working on a lot is real estate ventures. And this has been a long process. I do have a past investing in vacant land, which has been very cool. Um, but now getting into single family and multifamily, and learning how to underwrite deals, learning how to get deals funded, um, just learning how to extract value from deals, add value to deals. It's been a year long learning process, almost a year, and the profit, you know, the returns maybe are not there yet, but I think that's to be expected when you're dealing with something that you come in and you're pretty new to it. I'm excited now. I'm working with a team of a couple other investors, and we're getting hyper focused in a couple different areas. A lot of really promising potential deals on the table right now, and I'm just really excited about what this is going to look like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years from now. Um, I just can't wait to be able to report back to you guys and dive into specifics of these different deals as they as we start to cash flow and build equity and different things like that. So I don't have a lot to share right now on that, but I just will say, if anyone is interested in real estate, of course, as soon as you listen to a podcast that mentions real estate, you're going to see a bunch of ads from real estate gurus. There's a lot out there. Probably 90% of it is probably garbage. So I have opinions on if you are looking to, buy a course or sign up for a community or something to learn. Um, and you, rather than, spending the money, you can feel free to come ask me my opinion if you want to. You can always, reach me on X at John Odermatt, shoot me an email, john@lionsofliberty.com. And that goes for literally anything that I talk about from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I mean, or really anything at all. You have a guest recommendation, of course, you can always reach out to me. Happy to hear from you guys. I do this podcast for myself, but I also do it for all of you listening, because why else would I do this, right? um, and then the last piece, of course, podcast consulting. I've kicked this around. The thing is, like, from a time standpoint, it needs to be something that I'm able to make money on that justifies my time commitment, because podcast consulting, producing, it's going to take significant time. I know how to do it. I know how to build a successful podcast. There's a certain clientele that I would work with, Um, and it's tough because it's something I really want to do, but I just know, like, how much is on my plate right now. To add that on would be a lot, and, I've had a couple different meetings. Of course, I had a meeting with, great listener friend of the show. I wouldn't say his full name, but Ryan. And Ryan, if you're listening, I haven't forgotten about you. Um, just trying to figure out if this is something that I want to commit to, and maybe I should just commit to just taking on 1 or 2 clients and, and go in that way, just something that I know that I can deliver on without getting overwhelmed. I've really been working on my own podcast producing process, trying to make it as efficient as possible. If you follow us on YouTube, if you probably see some of our reels. If you don't, definitely go subscribe to us, Lions of Liberty on YouTube. Subscribe to my own personal Finding Freedom YouTube page. You can search Finding Freedom John Odermatt. It'll come up. I haven't put a lot of marketing effort into that page. I probably should, but we've really been focused on, creating more and more reels, using this content, repurposing our podcast content here at Lions of Liberty to reach more people, because that's really what it's all about. Okay, so that pretty much sums up what's going on with me. I just feel like it was time for a check in. People have reached out to me, asked me how I'm doing. Um, an annoying thing about being an entrepreneur is when people ask you a question like, "Oh, what do you do?" or "How are things going for you?" It's like, "Oh man, do you have an hour? I mean, how much how much time do you have?" Like, it's not. I get a little bit jealous of people, like, people with job titles. Like, I used to have that too, so it's not like something I'm not familiar with. But oh yes, I'm the director of sales and operations at blah blah blah, and people just nod like, "Oh yes, that sounds very impressive. You must have a nice office." And it's like, but people don't actually share what they actually do. But I don't know. I just feel like when people ask me what I do, I feel like I have to explain it, because if I just say like, "Oh, I do podcasting or real estate or health supplements," it's like so vague. People are like, "What? What are you even talking about?" So I don't know. I struggle with that. The elevator pitch, if you will, on what you do as an entrepreneur. Not a strength. Probably need to work on that. Anyway, 2 stories I want to talk about, and I won't take up too much more of your time. But first, so a story out of New York, and I think this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I do have a daughter, 10-year-old daughter, and um, this story out of New York. This is a 16-year-old girl, Long Island, and a federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction allowing her to attend school despite not getting her 3rd round of hepatitis B boosters, because doctors certified she could be seriously harmed or even killed by it. Now, that sounds like a no brainer. And it's like, wait a minute, this had to go to court? Yes, this had to go to court. Otherwise, in order for her to attend school, she would have had to risk dying. Now, if that sounds crazy, it is crazy. And so this is obviously a huge victory for medical exemptions. And the judge indicated that this girl is likely to succeed in her claim under the Americans with Disability Act. Um, Now, this injunction extends through her entire junior year, which is cool. She didn't have to worry about it. So it goes through June 30th, 2026. And hopefully by that time, um, I would think that maybe she will be able to succeed and get that victory under the ADA. So this is obviously being celebrated as a win, win against bureaucratic overreach, um, which force children to get vaccines to be able to attend school. Um, but this does set a powerful judicial precedent. And it will be interesting to see where this goes because obviously, from I think it's a practical perspective, but from a libertarian perspective, freedom of choice. And when you have a doctor, a licensed medical doctor who is saying you could die if you take this vaccination, um, that doctor, that doctor's opinion should carry weight, more weight than you know government bureaucrats who are saying in order to go to school you have to take this vaccination. So this really does open up for many more legal challenges, which I'm hopeful will come to these different vaccine mandates. And states like Idaho, they actually rolled back most of their school immunization mandates in 2025, earlier this year. So it'll be interesting to see if more states follow suit, especially more conservative red states. So this will be something to follow. And from my perspective, as I talked about when I first started talking about this, having a kid, having children, I didn't really first start to question vaccines. I definitely really didn't question vaccines at all when my daughter was born, and she took the whole vaccine schedule. Um, even even the flu. Did she get the? Yeah, she even got the flu vaccine when she was little. In one of her rounds when they gave her a bunch, and I maybe in the past 20 years have had the flu one time. That's when I got the flu. Right after she got that vaccine, both my wife and I were sicker than we've ever been. Ruby was fine. She was great. Um, well, I should say after the initial, there was initial vaccine, like you get the temperature and all the things, which is crazy. It's just like they're like, oh, that's normal. That's just their immune system, and it spikes way up. And it's like, I mean, I understand like what they're saying. So it's your body learning, being encoded with immunization, allegedly at least. Maybe to some degree it is. Maybe to some degree it's poison and it's inflammation, and your body is trying to eradicate some of those things. I have to be careful what I say. I will say this: I'm not a medical doctor or a scientist, and I don't want any more YouTube strikes for medical misinformation. So consult your doctor for all of your medical opinions. But so from my perspective, everything changed for me around COVID and has made me examine every vaccine much more closely. That's not to say I'm anti-vaccine. I'm not. I do think that vaccines can serve a purpose, but I just don't trust these darn corporations, man. Especially these mega pharma corporations that have had so much control over the FDA for so long. And as we're going to talk about in the next story here, with Donald Trump, maybe doing a little pivot on Operation Warp Speed. I just don't trust him. So that's where I'm at on that. This is good news. So this is like a white pill you can take. You can take it home with you and pop it in your mouth and feel good for a little while. We have a win, right? We have a win in the state of New York. That's crazy. It's crazy to win anything from a liberty perspective in the state of New York. But secondarily, or lastly, I should say, I wanted to talk about this whole Trump thing. And so Donald Trump had a post on Truth Social where, as I pull this up, I'll just read what he said. It's long, but I'm just going to read it. So he says, it's very important that drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that save millions of lives. That's true. Many people do think that. Others disagree. Also true. Others do disagree. I'll add my commentary as I read this. With CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer and I want it now. All caps. About time, Donald. About time. I've been shown information from Pfizer and others that is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not? They go off to the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the CDC, trying to figure out the success or failure of the drug company's COVID work. They show me great numbers, all caps great, and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. I want them to show them now, all caps, to the CDC and the public and clear up this mess, all caps. One way or the other. Three exclamation points. I hope Operation Warp Speed, all caps, was brilliant, all caps and in quotes, as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter, President DJT. So, a lot of people, of course, are hailing this as an abrupt shift in the way Donald Trump has talked about Operation Warp Speed and the vaccine. And I do agree with that. This is an abrupt shift on the campaign trail. All up until this point, he's always touted his Operation Warp Speed and how he's through this. They've saved millions of lives, and everybody says so, and everybody agrees. And when he did this at rallies, when he was running for this second term, he'll get booed. And the MAGA crowd was not on board, obviously, with the COVID vaccine and the mandates, how everything played out under Joe Biden. And it's always been interesting to me, Donald Trump, we've talked about before, he doesn't apologize. He doesn't course correct. He doesn't say, well, I've learned this now. So looking back on this thing, I got that wrong. But now that I know that, I got X wrong, but now that I know that, I'm doing Y. Donald Trump has never operated that way. He never apologizes. He never says he did anything wrong, and he keeps moving forward. So what's really interesting to me is he's even opening the door for that. But he's done it in a way where he's pointing the fingers squarely at these pharmaceutical companies. In what manner? It's really hard to tell. So of course, I like that he is asking for this data to be made public. Now, what data is he talking about? Could be efficacy figures across different age groups, could be adverse event data, safety profiles from post-trial follow-ups, could be long-term immunity data or waning effectiveness trends. Not specify what the data is, but the question is, if this is true, if these companies are showing something to Trump and not to the CDC, what the crap are they showing Trump? Like, yes, please do show us what you're showing Trump, because are you just manipulating him? Are you lying to him? Are you lying to his inner circle in order to insulate yourselves? And it's crazy that that could even happen in today's world, where information is so readily available, and if there's data out there that has not been made available, if there's COVID vaccine testing data, whatever demographic data, shot data, whatever that's not been made available to the public, it needs to be, and I hope it is. I'm interested to see if this does become available, and it does show that Trump was lied to. For most people, that would be an easy pivot. Trump, for most people, they would say, "Oh wow, I was lied to. Operation Warp Speed was a fraud, and these people need to be prosecuted." Now, I don't know if Donald Trump will react that way, because he still wants to be right. Like, to him, Operation Warp Speed, that's his legacy, right? Like, that's a big piece of who he is, his first term as president. So if he loses that, that's a big blow to his ego. The question becomes, like, is Donald Trump at a point? I know he's getting older. People change as they get older. He's got people in his ear. He's got Bobby Kennedy in his ear. I don't know what this data says. Once again, saying, so I don't get another YouTube strike. I haven't seen the data. I don't know. Could say anything. It could, point to, some credible things that might say the vaccine actually did some of the things they say it said it did. Highly doubt that. Highly doubt that. But the public deserves to see it, and I hope we do get to see it because transparency, as transparency is the key to really all forms of government, especially when it comes to healthcare and health freedom and being able to make informed decisions between yourself and your doctor. If there's not transparency and you're forcing people to take a medical product and you're hiding data, or maybe you're hiding data that you manipulated in order to even get a vaccine approved, in order to get a president's support, that's wild, man. That is that would be quite a scandal. So I don't know what direction this goes in. This podcast is being recorded on September 1st, 2025. We might hear on September 7th that, the whole narrative could be different. I'm just not going to get in the boat where a lot of these MAGA people are saying Donald Trump has changed his tune. He's now going to start going after the pharmaceutical companies. Sure. Did he open the door for that? Yes. Does it mean he will? No. He could still shut the door and support Operation Warp Speed again. So I don't really have optimism when it comes to that. Do I have maybe from a probability standpoint? Is there like a 5 to 10% chance that Trump pivots on this and does a flipperoni? Sure, there is. There is now. There wasn't before. So that's cool. It'll be interesting to follow, but I don't think I don't think this is like a moment that will I mean, this isn't going to this isn't a clear indicator that things are going to change, I should say. There's a chance now. Now there's a chance, but there's no clear indication. Okay. So I think really like the closing words here to wrap this all up, and so much of Donald Trump's second term, it's like, well, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And you reach a point where it's like, well, that's probably, most presidents. There's good and bad. Of course, with someone like Joe Biden, from my perspective, there was a lot more bad than good. But I can sit in the middle, and I can say that there were certain good things that Joe Biden did. Not everything was bad. Every president has a couple things that are wins, and those things get exaggerated by their base. And I think a lot of the time, some things that presidents have no impact on get owned by that president, which, I had my interview last week with Amanda Goodall, the job chick, which was a great interview. Check that out if you missed it. Fantastic. Talking about the changes in corporate America, the corporate revolution. And the corporate revolution is the downsizing and eliminating of white collar workers, essentially, and replacing them by offshoring, nearshoring, automation, AI, all these different things. And this is something that is really having a very negative effect on young people trying to enter the workforce. And you look at graphs for like, oh, here's the unemployment rate. Well, it actually went way up. The unemployment rate's been like steady at 4, which is ridiculous. It's not in reality. Unemployment rate you can't look at. But looking at jobs added, so jobs went way down at the end of Biden's term. They were tracking down, and they're still tracking down during Trump. And it's not like a Trump policy or a Biden policy. We are living through a revolution. We're living through a dynamic shift in efficiency and the way that AI just touches everything. It's so powerful. It's crazy. The amount of different things I use AI now for, as opposed to 2 months ago, it just keeps picking up speed. It's completely insane. How much more efficient AI has made me. And these corporations, of course, are catching on to it. And I think when people are really going to realize what's happening, when they see like a new startup come out of nowhere that has like 3 employees and everything else is AI, and then they just grow into a massive, company, that'll be like that'll be in your face eye opening that I think people will, if they're not awake, at that point, this will probably happen in the next year or 2, they'll be awake then when you realize you don't need people to grow a company, and we're not far from that. We are not far from that at all, and it's is it scary? Yes. Did I plan to talk about AI on this show today? No. Does AI find its way into every show? Yes. Um, it is scary, but it's change. And, just like radio going to television, television going to the internet being amplified with AI, it's crazy. And being older, being 42 and being able to reflect upon all the change I've seen in my life and going from a time, remember when I was a kid, if I had a, sports practice after school and had to wait for my mom to pick me up, I had to use a payphone and call collect and say, "Hey mom, come pick me up." So on the message real quick so she'll come. I didn't have to waste a quarter. And then in the time when you wait 15 minutes for your parents to come pick you up, what do you do? Do you look at your phone? No, there were no phones. You'd like throw rocks at a sign or you or you just stare into the distance. And kids today don't do that. Like they don't have to have that imagination. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I've just been reflecting a lot recently on just these core things in society that um, really frame who people become. Everything is shifting. And it's like, where the heck are things going? And it's really hard to get your arms around, which is why I think so many young people are being pulled towards religion, looking for that truth, which I've talked about a lot in this show, and I plan to talk about it a lot more. But that's all the time I have for today, guys. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in. And like I said during the show, questions for me on anything I talked about. If you have guest recommendations, please reach out at John Odermatt on Twitter or John at lionsofliberty.com. Of course, here at Lions of Liberty, we've been growing this network. I'm going to keep pouring myself into making this network the best it can be. I know that Brian McWilliams, Brian Nichols, and Lou Perez all believe the same, and that includes bonus content. So we have Degenerate Gamblers, which is back now. Brian has his daily rants, which you can hear. We're going to have Secrets, Lies, and Cover-Ups, another episode of that coming up. With our high-level members, we have our monthly calls and a bunch of different things. We're going to be rebranding, redoing our Lions of Liberty store, which you can get discounts to. Bottom line is, come join us. We're going to be renaming what we call this this group, this patron group, but doesn't matter what the name is. I'll let Brian announce that in due time, because he's in charge of that. Here at Lions of Liberty, we've started to hand out some roles, and McWilliams is in charge of rebranding what was the Lions of Liberty Pride. Go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty, Lions of Liberty, .locals.com, I believe it is. Go to the sites and search for us. You'll find it. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you subscribing to the podcast and the YouTube and Rumble channels. You are the reason why we do this. I'll see y'all next week. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.